Welcome to Northwestern Outdoors Radio, the show brought to you every week by our sponsors, Max Lure Company, Leupold and Stevens, Sportsman's Warehouse, the Wallowa County Chamber of Commerce, the Pike Minnow Sport Reward Fishery, Stehekin Valley Ranch, and Chad's Coastwide Sports Fishing. You may have noticed we've got some new intro music for you this week, and it comes from one of my favorite artists. His name is Frank Prevost. He hails from the Gopher State, Minnesota. And why, do you ask? Are we playing a cut from his album, I Miss Lake Bemidji? Well, I'll tell you why. Because we're not in the Northwest this week. We are in Minnesota, specifically Ely, Minnesota. And I've got to tell you, I really like this place. It's a small town in the far north of Minnesota. It's billed as the jumping off point for people exploring the Boundary Waters Canoe Area Wilderness. In fact, when you come to this town, you're going to find more cars than you've ever seen before with canoes strapped up top. The hotels and restaurants and other businesses in town all seem to have names that have to go with the theme of canoeing and fishing and outdoors recreation, and there's quite a few restaurants in Ely where you can get a very good meal consisting of walleye. There's a lot of other things you can do here too, especially when it comes to outdoors recreation. There are a lot of lakes, and that means there's a lot of fishing to be had around here. Lots of forests, lots of trees. We're talking sugar pines, we're talking birch trees, and we're talking about a lot of wildlife too. There's moose, there's deer, there's even wolves. And if you don't see a wolf in the wild, you'll probably see one in the International Wolf Center. On top of that, there's hiking opportunities and just a lot of friendly people. This is a great place to visit. Bring your fishing pole, bring your canoe, bring your paddles, and get ready for a good time. Now that we both have a good idea of what you can do around Ely, let's visit some of the folks who live and work here and some of the places you'll want to visit too. We'll start off fishing with local guide Jim Orcutt, also known as Jim the Fish Guy. He's going to take you and I out onto Bear Island Lake for a day of fishing for walleye, pike, and smallmouth bass, and he's going to share some tips that will help you catch fish in the North Woods too. If you want to catch walleye in these lakes, one person to ask for advice is Midwestern Walleye Tournament champion Johnny Candle, and we'll be doing that during an extended Max Minute. If you're looking for a place to stay on Bear Island Lake near Ely, you'll be hard-pressed to do much better than staying at one of the cabins found at Timberwolf Lodge. Steve Branstrom, the general manager of this wonderful resort, will tell you more about this family-friendly vacation destination. Last but not least, we'll visit that International Wolf Center. There is a fantastic exhibit inside the center where you can learn all about wolves and their interactions with humans over time. There are also live wolves too, and if you're lucky, you'll get to see a gray wolf and an Arctic wolf like I saw during my visit there. We've got some fun upcoming events to tell you about here in the region we call home. And as always, we've got a new Sportsman's Warehouse trivia question of the week. And you will get a chance to listen to more of the music that is offered by Frank Prevost during this broadcast. Are you ready to head to Ely? So am I. But before we do, it's time for your weekly dose of Sportsman Spotlight, brought to you by Chad's Coastwide Sports Fishing, offering affordable, all-inclusive saltwater fishing vacations out of Port Hardy, BC. Find out more at coastwidesportsfishing.com.
Training your hunting dog, David Sparks, Sportsman Spotlight. Lee Roberts got a twofer out of his dog school. They were both trained, but in entirely different ways.
I had two Drothauers, one 2 years older than the other. The first one I had trained by a professional trainer for pheasant hunting, and I enjoyed greatly going out with it. Although I wasn't an avid hunter, I liked doing it. We got the second dog, and it was about 5 or 6 months old. I started taking her along with the first. And the second dog would run around and do what puppies usually do. And the first dog, who usually ran around with the second one, just ignored it and went on about its business. And pretty soon the younger dog noticed what was going on and just went over and duplicated whatever the older dog did. So as I gave commands with the hand motions to the older dog to traverse certain distances, the younger dog started doing the same thing. When the older dog started pointing birds, the younger dog started doing that. And after 5 or 6 times, I could take the younger dog out alone, and she did just as well as the older one.
So this might be a case of the student thoroughly outdoing the professor. This is David Sparks with Sportsman Spotlight.
A quality and affordable fishing adventure is waiting for you off Vancouver Island with Chad's Coast-Wide Sports Fishing. Located in Port Hardy, British Columbia, you can drive or fly to your all-inclusive guided fishing vacation. Whether you're after big salmon, heart-fighting halibut, or a cooler full of red snapper and lingcod, you can catch it all here. Better yet, your lodging, meals, and fish processing are all taken care of. Want one more reason to go? The price. With the Canadian dollar exchange rate where it is right now, your U.S. dollar goes further. Space is limited, so go to coastwidesportsfishing.com to book your trip for an incredible fishing adventure.
Sportsman's Warehouse is America's premier outfitter and has the quality gear you need for hunting, fishing, camping, and more. Our knowledgeable and friendly staff will help you find the right product so you get the most out of your time in the field or on the water. In addition to stocking superior clothing and outdoor equipment, we offer in-store events and seminars so you can enjoy a successful adventure. With over 70 stores located in the United States, it's easy to find a Sportsman's Warehouse store near you. Find out more at sportsmanswarehouse.com.
Motor and Minn Kota troller and Lowrance fish finder or two. We push off the dock just before 5 o'clock and go sailing off into the blue.
You're back with Northwestern Outdoors Radio. I'm John Cruz. We are broadcasting from Bear Island Lake in northern Minnesota near the town of Ely. And we're fishing with guide Jim Orcutt today. Jim guides these waters. He will take you fishing for smallmouth bass. He'll take you fishing for walleye. He'll take you fishing for pike and other species as well. Jim, welcome to the show.
Hi, John. Nice to be here.
So let's talk about the day we've had. It's been a fun morning. We got into a walleye right away. Decided to change tactics, go after pike. Got a few smacks, but we didn't get any hooked up. But then we went for bass, and we've been doing pretty well. And we've gotten a couple of nice bass in the boat today, haven't we?
Yep, we've been doing pretty good with the bass. Found a little tactic that works and trying to stick with it.
Well, I wanted to talk about some of the tactics that you're using today for the various species of fish. But before we do, let's talk about some of the lakes that you fish. So Bear Island Lake, it's up to 2,700 acres. It's defined by the big island called by Bear Island. But there's actually islands, forested islands all over this lake. Beautiful place to fish. And again, we've got all of these species. What else can you catch here in Bear Island Lake?
Bear Island's a really good smallmouth bass lake. Walleyes, we fish for walleyes a lot on this lake. Crappies, mostly crappies in the fall and the winter. Bluegills, we catch a lot of bluegills. We actually catch them walleye fishing. And it's a decent northern lake, too.
What are some of the other lakes around Ely that you like to fish? Because I know you're one of about 3 guides that works this area. And folks, there's a lot of water to fish here.
Yeah, I fish Bear Island Lake, Shagwell Lake, which is almost right in Ely, White Iron Lake Chain, White Iron Farm Lake, Garden Lake, and South Farm Lake. I thought I just heard a fish jump. Birch Lake, and Basswood Lake in the Boundary Waters.
And do all of these lakes offer similar experiences in terms of what you're going to be catching?
Yes. Shagwell is probably the only one that doesn't really have any panfish in it. I've fished that lake for 20 years, and I think I've caught 2 crappies and 1 bluegill. But as far as the other lakes, smallmouth bass and the walleyes, are pretty predominant in all those lakes. And a few of the lakes are better for northerns than others. And different times of the year is also better for, northerns on some of those lakes.
Now, I understand that in or close to Ely, you've actually got a trout lake, too, that has not only brook trout, but something called a splake. What is that lake, and what's a splake?
It's Miner's Lake, and a splake is a cross between a lake trout and a brook trout. And a good splake is going to be 3 or 4 pounds. But it's Miner's Lake, and they stock it with stream trout, and it's a very popular lake.
Well, let's go ahead and break down how you're catching some of these warm water species, and we'll start off with the most popular one, and that would be the walleye. And I like the fact that we started out this morning doing the same thing I do out west, which is trolling bottom bouncers, and I was actually using a Max Smile blade with a slow death hook on it, just like I would back home. But you use some other tactics as well to get walleye in the boat.
Oh, yeah. This time of year in summer, it's mostly, for me, bottom bouncing, like you said, with the Max Smiley blade and the slow death hook. But we also will Lindy rig fish, which is a popular Minnesota, Midwestern type of fishing. And earlier in the year, we'll jig fish a lot, jigs and minnows. And in the fall, we also do more jig fishing in the deeper water for walleyes.
You're listening to Northwestern Outdoors Radio, talking to guide Jim Orcutt. We're fishing on Bear Island Lake, and now, as you may be hearing, it's raining. And that's okay, because the fish bite in the rain, too. Let's turn our attention, as you put on your rain jacket, to northern pike. And again, we had some strikes today. I know that sometimes a year are better than others, but when it comes to pike fishing in the spring and the summer months, what do you recommend people do to tear into some of these water wolves?
Mostly in the spring. Our fishing season opens Mother's Day weekend, middle of May, and the northerns are going to be in shallower that time of year. So we like to cast rapalas, minnow-type bait, and we also like to fish with sucker minnows underneath a bobber. And that's really fun to, you're sitting there watching your bobbers, and they disappear real quickly, and you can see them swimming around. And that's one of the more popular techniques to do, just because it's easy for people to do. You hook the minnow, throw it out, and sit there and watch your bobber for a while. And you catch a lot of fish and a lot of big fish doing that.
I understand catching a 36-inch northern pike actually isn't uncommon here.
It's fairly common. I mean, it doesn't happen every day, obviously, but you go, a trophy-sized northern's going to be 36, 40 inches, so catch one of those, you're doing pretty good.
All right, well, let's turn our attention to yet another species as the rain continues to pour, much heavier now, I might add. And what we're going to talk about next is smallmouth bass, and that's what we've been having the best luck with today. Interesting, here in this lake that we're fishing for the smallmouth, they're very dark colored, and is that because of the tannic water that they live in?
Yep, the tannic water will change the color of the smallmouth, and the walleyes are actually be a darker gold, also because of the stained water. But it doesn't hurt them; it's perfectly fine. But they definitely look different than, say, a Lake Michigan walleye, where the water's a lot clearer.
And one way you've been catching them today, with deadly effectiveness, has been with topwater lures. And folks, I don't care who you are, catching bass on a topwater bait is the way to go if you want excitement. What are you using?
Right now I'm using a head-in teeny torpedo. It's a 1.5, 2-inch long bait, and it's got a bladed propeller on it. And just throwing it up towards shore, and literally if you're not within a foot of the shore, you're not getting a strike today. Work it out a couple of feet, twitching it, and then I just reel it real slowly back to the boat. Lots of times you get fish doing that, but not today. You just have to be right close to the shore and twitch it a couple times. And in fact, a couple times it hits the water, and almost immediately a fish has hit it.
What are some of the other tactics you like to use to catch smallmouth bass here in these northern lakes?
I like using tube jigs. Me being mostly a walleye fisherman, I just hook them on a regular lead-headed jig. I don't use a tube jig like a professional bass fisherman would. And it works fine doing that. I also like using Senkos, and you hook them wacky style. Hook it right in the middle. It's kind of a different technique. There's a little band that fits around the worm, and you put your hook through that so you're not ripping the lure. But those are three of the best ways that I like to do it.
Let's talk about the season itself. When it comes to fishing season here, it's not year-round, is it?
No, we have a closed season from the end of February till Mother's Day weekend for walleyes, northerns, and bass. And panfish is open year-round. Northerns also is closed. It's mostly for spawning purposes. The fish spawn in that time of year, and we try and not fish for them so we're not harming them or injuring the fish so they can spawn properly.
Last but not least, if people want to come to Ely, Minnesota, and book a fishing trip with you either on Bear Island Lake or one of the other lakes they fish, how do they get a hold of you?
You can get a hold of me at jim@jimthefishguy.com. I also have a website, Jim the Fish Guy, and you can reach me at 218-349-3658.
Best way to do it, folks, just go to his website, jimthefishguy.com. That's jimthefishguy.com. We've had a great day with him today. You will too. He's got a quality Lund boat, great electronics. He knows his stuff, and he's just a fun guy to spend a day with out on the water, even if it's pouring rain. Jim, thanks for sharing this great day with us on Northwestern Outdoors Radio.
Thank you, John. It was a pleasure.
Hog wobbler before I walk out the door. And I miss Lake Bemidji and all of my buddies and all of the beer we go through. Chucking big bait, making figure eights with musky spinners and lures. Oh, honey, I love you, and that's not a line. Musky guides all tell the truth. This must be the reason why I miss fishing more than I miss you. This must be the reason why I miss fishing more than I miss you.
Tired of the noise, the hustle and bustle of the city? Then find your solitude in the lands of Wallowa County. Bring your camping gear and hike into the Eagle Cap Wilderness. Explore the Zumwalt Prairie. Rise with the sun on the Wallowas and hear the early morning stirring of the wildlife. Smell the fresh coffee, the sizzling bacon, and the crackle of the fire. This is a good life, and it's waiting for you in Northeast Oregon's Wallowa County. Come and enjoy one of Oregon's 7 wonders, and you'll wonder why you haven't been here before. Your getaway starts at WallowaCountyChamber.com.
Want to go fishing and make money? You are in luck. This year's Pike Minnow Sport Reward Fishery kicks off May 1st. Just register at a check station and go fishing for 9-inch or longer northern pike minnow within designated waters of the Columbia or Snake River. Then you bring your fish back and collect a voucher good for a cash reward. The more fish you catch, the more they're worth. $5, $6, and $8 per fish. Catch a pike minnow with a special tag and you've landed $500. Find out more at pikeminnow.org. That's pikeminnow.org.
Backcountry hunters and anglers, the men and women working hard to keep public lands in public hands. Check us out at backcountryhunters.org.
You're back with more of the great outdoors on Northwestern Outdoors Radio with John Cruz.
It's time for another Max Minute. Fish on! From Max Lure Company, and we've got somebody special with us today. It's Johnny Candle, the winner of the 2010 World Walleye Championship. Now, Johnny, you fish a lot of tournaments all over North America, and I know you love to use Max Lures. So when you're fishing unfamiliar waters, tell us about a couple lures that you like to use.
Well, the whole key with the Max Lures and walleye fishing is the Smile blade, and 2 of their pre-tied rigs that work really well are the Slow Death rig and the Wally Pop. Where you find a difference between the 2 is the size of forage you're trying to imitate. The Slow Death rig is designed to use a half a night crawler, where the Wally Pop uses a whole night crawler. And it gives you nice options if they're feeding on smaller forage, young of the year minnows, things along those lines. You go with that Slow Death rig. And when they're looking for bigger bait fish, maybe earlier or later in the season when the natural forage is larger, that's when I go with the Wally Pop. But both of those feature that Smile blade, and that is the key to both of those lures.
And the reason you like the Smile blade, this Mylar blade, is because it spins at ultra slow speed.
You got it. You're all over it. You must have used them yourself a few times, John. It's like I explain in my seminars. If I'm using a traditional spinner that I need to go about a mile an hour to make it spin, and I catch a lot of fish on those, don't get me wrong, but say you have a quarter of a mile of walleye water, you're only in that zone for 15 minutes for each pass. Where if I can go a quarter of a mile an hour, now I can keep my baits in front of those fish for an hour at a time before I have to turn around and go back or run upstream and make another pass. The whole key to catching more fish is being in the strike zone as long as you possibly can be, and the Smile blades let me do that.
If it works for Johnny Candle, it's going to work for you. And that's an extended Max Minute from Max Lure Company. You can find Wally Pops and the Smile Blade Slow Death Rig at a store near you or at maxlure.com.
I'm Bob Loomis, and I fish for walleye. Sometimes when I'm out on the water, I feel like a destroyer captain hunting for targets with my electronics. I'm not hunting submarines, though. I'm hunting fish, and when I find that big one on the fish finder, I want to make sure she's going to bite. That's where the Smile Blade Slow Death Rig from Max Lure comes in. The Smile Blade spins and flashes at ultra-slow speeds, and the one-of-a-kind red hook keeps that bait moving in a way the fish can't resist. It's the Smile Blade Slow Death Rig. You're the destroyer. This is your depth charge. Only from Max Lure.
A quality and affordable fishing adventure is waiting for you off Vancouver Island with Chad's Coast-Wide Sports Fishing. Located in Port Hardy, British Columbia, you can drive or fly to your all-inclusive guided fishing vacation. Whether you're after big salmon, heart-fighting halibut, or a cooler full of red snapper and lingcod, you can catch it all here. Better yet, your lodging, meals, and fish processing are all taken care of. Want one more reason to go? The price. With the Canadian dollar exchange rate where it is right now, your U.S. dollar goes further. Space is limited, so go to coastwidesportsfishing.com to book your trip. That's coastwidesportsfishing.com for an incredible BC fishing adventure.
I'll tag you, you tag me back. Let's put pennies on a railroad track. Fireflies in a mason jar. Hide and seek. There you are, just a boy.
Welcome back to Northwestern Outdoors Radio. I'm John Cruz. And just in time for summer, we have got the perfect place for you. As a matter of fact, we're broadcasting from it today. It's Timberwolf Lodge. It's located on Bear Island Lake in northern Minnesota, just a few miles south of the great little town of Ely. With us here to tell you more about this great resort and all the fun things you can do here is the manager, Steve Branstrom. Steve, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure.
So, Steve, why don't you tell our listeners a little bit about Timberwolf Lodge?
Well, we've had a resort here for the last 80 years in some form or another. It's a great place. It's a family-run resort. We have lots of family activities. We have boats to rent. We have 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom, and 5-bedroom cabins available through the summer.
I love the layout of this place. Number one, Bear Island Lake is surrounded by trees, and there's a lot of trees in the resort too. And it just adds to the ambiance of the place as the wind that you're probably hearing as you're listening to this show today blows through the trees, whether it be the birch trees or the pines. And the layout, again, you've got a swimming beach, you've got a little playground for the kids, you've got the marina with moorage for boats, you've even got private docks in front of the cabins. Just a busy place and really a family-friendly place too, isn't it?
Yeah, we really focus on family and keeping together, and we don't supply Wi-Fi just because it's a place to come and plug. We do have a Wi-Fi hotspot down at the office that if you really do need to get on the internet, you can, but not in each cabin.
Well, and folks, the cabins have everything you need. They've got barbecue out on the porch. You've got a picnic table out there as well. Inside, you've got your bedrooms, you've got your bathroom, you've got your living room area, you've got a kitchen. One thing you don't have, and I'm really happy about, is you don't have a TV.
Nope, no TV. We do have sleep number beds. We have the Keurig coffee makers. We have a few other amenities that maybe you don't have at home that you can enjoy here and make the most of it.
Well, let's talk about why people come here. And obviously, it's a family resort. It's a family getaway. And you could spend several days here just down on the porch listening to the loons out on the lake and listening to the wind blow through the trees and just watching what's going on in front of you over the water. But I think most people are on the water. They're fishing, aren't they?
For sure. They're up here to fish. Catch walleyes or northerns, crappies. You have largemouth, smallmouth bass, pretty much a little bit of everything.
So, Steve, tell me a little bit more about these boats that you have for rent for anglers. I know we sure enjoyed the one we were in last night.
We have several 16-foot boats that we've equipped with fish finders. We've got some newer motors. All of our boats have fish finders on them, actually. We have a pontoon. We have an upgraded guide type of fishing boat. And all of our water toys, the canoes, the kayaks, and so on that we spoke about before, are all free to use for our guests.
And you know, folks, the basic boats they have here are perfect for these northern lakes. They're your classic 16-foot Lund aluminum boats. They're stable. They're going to handle just about anything that you can throw at them. They got the 9.9 horse outboards, and plus they're 4-strokes, so they're quiet. They start right up. No worries about jerking like you might on your old 2-stroke back home. And like you said, those fish finders, that's a real treat you generally don't see on a rental boat.
Yeah, that's a new upgrade that we added this year. We also do have some 15-horse boats, or motors, too, for our boats.
Most of the anglers that are here, what are they after, the walleye?
Pretty much, yeah. Walleyes and the bass.
Well, you know, I hooked into one today. Didn't get to the boat, but it was a stout fish. And when I got here, well, I think I saw the guy that caught my fish because he had a couple of 4-pound-plus walleye, and you got lots of what I call those eater-sized walleye too, don't you?
Yeah, we encourage to put the females back, the big breeders, and then keep the eater size, like you say. But we also count sight and release too, so if it got away from you, it counts.
I can't quite go that far on this one, but I sure appreciate that. Well, so the walleye's really popular. Something that actually intrigues me, living out west, and we don't have a lot of pike fishing, is the chance to get into northern pike. You've got that opportunity, and the bass fishing here is, what I found out today, is really good. Very healthy population of smallmouth bass and some nice size ones.
Yeah, they do get quite big. The northern pike also get very big, too. We had a fellow that caught almost a 36-inch northern here the other day. He put it right back in the lake, though, so it's still lurking out there.
Good to hear. Maybe I still got a crack at it. You know, one other thing we need to talk about here is the panfish. Like you mentioned the crappie. There's bluegill in here too. And I've got to imagine that for the kids, that's got to be a really popular fishery.
Yeah, it is. And actually, sunfish are bite right off the dock, too, and right in front. I remember one time I was watching Dad with his 3 little girls catching sunfish after sunfish faster than he could rebait their hooks, and he was scrambling. It was a sight to see.
But you know what? If you're a kid and you just got a bobber there and you've got a worm under it, there's nothing better. I mean, that is the perfect day of fishing. That's how I got my daughter hooked on the sport.
Yeah, for sure. We had another little girl that was down there, and she was catching this little 6-inch perch over and over again. She's pretty much just feeding it.
I love it. I love it. Let's talk about some of the other things that you can do here besides fishing, because there's a lot more to do than that.
Oh, yeah. Ely's a great place. Got a lot of shops there, a lot of shopping. We got the North American Wolf Center, the American Bear Center. We've got so many activities. There's the mines that can tour that are in the area. There's plenty of hiking trails.
Speaking of hiking trails, you actually offer a guided hike right here from the resort. Tell our listeners about that.
Yeah, our guest services manager, Petey, he takes a crew out to Kawishawee Falls every Sunday and does a guided hike. It's a real easy hike and just a spectacular waterfalls, especially now since we've got a lot of rain. It's really raging. It's fun to see.
Tell me more about this hike. Tell me more about the falls. Is it a really tall waterfall, or is it just one that makes a lot of noise? It's a fun destination.
Yeah, it's pretty wide. It's not that tall. It's not like Niagara Falls or anything like that, but it's pretty wide, and it does make a lot of noise. And it's about a mile hike round trip, so it's really easy going for pretty much anybody.
Well, and that's one nice thing I enjoy about northern Minnesota. Folks, if you're vertically challenged and don't want to do a huff and puffer hike like you're going to find in the Rockies or the Cascades or the Sierra Nevadas, this might be the place for you because it looks like most of your hiking is pretty flat.
Yeah, for the most part. You know, we do have some challenging stuff for those folks that are up to it, but otherwise, of all shapes and sorts and sizes, we can accommodate.
One other thing we touched on earlier we should talk about a little bit more. You got some wildlife around here that folks are going to see.
Oh yeah, we've had a bear hanging out in the back 40 over there. He's been feeding on fish guts, and we've got an eagle that waits for those and hangs out. We've actually had a couple of moose in the area too that guests have spotted.
And we saw a beaver up close and personal today while we were fishing. We saw one of those eagles that was soaring overhead. And again, for me, the highlight is the loons, especially in the evening when they get to calling and get to sounding off. Just a beautiful sound and a great way to end an evening here at the resort.
Yeah, we've got a pair that are nesting in the area too, so they kind of hang out in front of us.
So let's get back to the kids, because again, it's pretty clear the focus of this resort is a family-friendly place. So folks, if you're looking for a place for spring break to party it up, this is probably not the place for you. But if you got kids in tow and you want a nice, relaxing place to go and a place to make some memories, this is the place. What are some of the other things that the kids love to do out here? I do see you have a swimming beach.
Yeah, we have a great beach with water trampoline out there. We've got various other water toys. We have canoes, kayaks, stand-up paddle boards. We've got a playground. Just all sorts of fun things for the kids to do. They can go hunt frogs in the wet areas and chase minnows and all kinds of things.
Well, there you go, folks. If you were looking for the classic summer vacation at the lake, you're going to be hard-pressed to do much better than to stay here at Timberwolf Lodge on Bear Island Lake, south of Ely. Let's give folks a website so they can find out more and maybe book a stay for either this summer or next summer.
Our website is www.timberwolflodge.com, or you can find us on Facebook.
That's timberwolflodge.com. The cabins here are fantastic, but you're going to want to book far in advance. They are popular, they are nice, and there's a reason that they book so far in advance. It's timberwolflodge.com. Check them out. Book now. Look for a summer cancellation that may happen this year. Book for next year and get ready to make some memories your whole family's going to enjoy. Steve, thanks for sharing this with us on Northwestern Outdoors Radio.
Thanks. It was a pleasure.
But time is one thing you can't stop no matter how you try. You just take a deep breath and you close your eyes and another day goes by. And before you know it, tomorrow is yesterday.
Stehekin Valley Ranch may well be one of the most spectacular places to visit in the lower 48. Located at the headwaters of Lake Chelan in Washington's North Cascades, we can only be reached by boat, plane, or foot. Stehekin takes back simple pleasures and adventures. Hike, fish, kayak, ride a horse, or just relax while soaking in the views. You can do it all at our family-owned ranch. Book your summer stay now at StehekinValleyRanch.com. That's StehekinValleyRanch.com.
You're back with Northwestern Outdoors Radio. I'm John Cruz. We're broadcasting from Ely, Minnesota. And if you ever come here, you need to stop by a very special place. It's the International Wolf Center. Not only are you going to find actual live wolves you can see, but you're going to find a fantastic educational facility where you're going to learn all about wolves and their interactions with humans and other animals here in North America. With us here to tell you more about it is Krista Harrington. She's the Interpretive Center Manager. Welcome to the show, Krista.
Thank you.
So, Krista, let's talk a little bit about the Wolf Center itself. When was this established and how did it come into being?
The International Wolf Center started in 1993 when the facility opened to the public. And it started because we have a fabulous Wolves and Humans exhibit. And that exhibit needed a permanent home. And so Ely, Minnesota was chosen as the location for that exhibit. And the International Wolf Center came to be.
And, folks, I got to tell you, this permanent exhibit is the heart and soul of what you're going to find inside the Interpretive Center, and it is really fantastic. And I think the centerpiece is the diorama you have and the taxidermy of wolves and a deer that they're feeding on and other animals that you're going to find near a kill site. Where did you get all the taxidermy for all the wolves and the animals that ended up here?
The exhibit was originally developed by the Science Museum of Minnesota, and it had been a traveling exhibit and then needed a permanent home. And so it came here as part of that Wolves and Humans to kind of explain the relationship between wolves and humans through time.
It's not just a visual exhibit, but it's also an audio exhibit, too. You've got a whole section about wolves howling and why they howl, and you were able to educate me on that a little bit as well. Tell our listeners a little bit more about that.
Wolves are howling just out of communication. So they can be howling as a chorus howl, which means that pack is coming together to kind of reinforce that bond, find each other. They may have been out hunting. They may just be spread out. They may just be reinforcing that bond that they have with each other. They can also be talking to other packs that are in the area. So it can be to kind of defend their territory. And it's really just all about communication.
So this exhibit, folks, it's well worth the visit, even if the actual live wolves weren't here. But let's be honest, most people, they're coming here to see live wolves. How many of them do you have? And what species are they?
We have 7 wolves that are on site, although 5 of them are in our main exhibit pack, which means that they are the ones that are visible to the public when you come to see them. And they are all part of the gray wolf species, although we have 3 of the 5 subspecies. So here at the International Wolf Center, we have Arctic wolves, we have Northwestern gray wolves, and then we also have the Great Plains wolf, which is the type of wolf you find here in Minnesota.
So the Northwestern wolf is the one that most of our listeners in the West are familiar with. The Arctic wolf, that was really interesting to me. That yes, they do have that whitish hue you'd expect in the Arctic, but where they're found, a very limited range, and it's not, folks, at the North Pole in Alaska.
They are found north of the 70-degree latitude line. So they are found kind of in that very northern part of Ellesmere Island, kind of the northern part of Canada. So they are white, and they are white all year round.
So let's talk about the exhibit in terms of what people are seeing, the socialization, the wolves that you have here. What are some of the highlights they're going to see?
The highlight is that hopefully you get to see them. So we do a couple different activities throughout the days that kind of encourages their activity to increase. During the summer, they are really warm wearing those fur coats. So we do some activities to try to get them active, but we socialize our wolves, which means we get them at approximately 2 to 3 weeks old, and they are raised with people 24 hours a day until they're approximately 3 months old before they're introduced into the exhibit pack and introduced to our adult wolves. And we do that so that we have wolves that are not as afraid of people. They still maintain that wild instinct. They still are wild wolves. They are not domesticated by any means, but they have gone through this socialization process so that it is not stressful to be on exhibit. We are able to watch them from our viewing area and see normal wolf behaviors that you just wouldn't be able to see in the wild. They have a very strong fear avoidance of people. And so socializing them minimizes that fear avoidance.
You're listening to Northwestern Outdoors Radio. We're talking to Krista Harrington. She's the Interpretive Center Manager at the International Wolf Center in Ely, Minnesota. And we've talked about the exhibit. Let's talk a little bit about wolves and humans and the interactions they have. Because I don't think there's any other animal that evokes such an emotional response, either pro-wolf or anti-wolf, as this animal does. Why is that?
They are definitely a very polarizing species, and one of the things that we look at here is that through our exhibit is through that wolf and human conflict and relationship. So through time, wolves have kind of been shown as kind of the negative side of a lot of different things, and that perception has kind of traveled, and it has gone through books, it has gone through movies, it has gone through TV shows. And so at the International Wolf Center, we're trying to educate people about what really happens with wolves and with wolf packs.
So let's go ahead and break down one myth right away. A lot of people have, let's be honest, an irrational fear of wolves. Now, don't get me wrong. I wouldn't want to be in a campfire surrounded by a wolf pack by myself in the wilderness. That'd be a very uncomfortable feeling for me. However, having said that, when it comes to the lower 48, when was the last documented wolf attack that resulted in fatalities on humans? Has it even happened in the last 70 years?
There has not been a documented case of a fatal attack on a human in the lower 48, although there have been attacks in other parts of the country and in other countries as well, including India. So it does happen. It just has not been documented to happen in the lower 48.
These attacks are exceedingly rare. You have much more to fear from, I would dare say, grizzly bears, maybe even cougars in the state of California, where there's been 14 attacks in the last 25 years, than you would from wolves. At any rate, folks, the bottom line is this. The wolves are a lot more scared of you than you are of them. Let's talk about two other types of interaction. In the Rocky Mountain West and the Pacific Northwest, where wolf populations are expanding, one of the biggest issues has been livestock depredation, where wolves are killing and sometimes spree killing large numbers of sheep or cattle at a time. And there's defenses that are evolving over time to help prevent this, but it continues to be a problem. Is that something that is a problem here in the Midwest with your wolves as well?
There are certainly conflicts with people as far as livestock and wolves go. And in northern Minnesota, it isn't quite as strong with the livestock just because we don't have the population of livestock ranchers and farmers. But there is more of a conflict with wolves and dogs, including pet dogs, and in Wisconsin particularly, dogs that are used for hunting. So there definitely are those conflicts. I think the bigger issue out west is that those free-ranging cattle and the wolf packs that are there certainly cause a completely different issue than how farms and ranches are done in kind of the Midwest. But that certainly can be a conflict. So there are a lot of things that are being done to kind of minimize the conflict that's happening, whether that's lethal control or non-lethal methods to discourage that kind of depredation.
And same question, but this time towards the wild ungulate population. So in the Northwest, they're preying on deer, they're preying on elk, they're preying on moose. Here in Minnesota, you certainly have a lot of moose, and you certainly got a lot of deer. Do the populations between predator and prey remain in a healthy balance, or has the rise of wolf numbers in Minnesota driven down these ungulate populations to an unhealthy level?
In Minnesota, the populations have stayed pretty stable. We've got just over 2,200 wolves in Minnesota, and we have just over 1 million deer in Minnesota. And those numbers have been stable for quite some time. The population of moose in Minnesota has been on the decline, but there are a lot of research projects that are going into looking into why. There are a lot of factors. Predation could certainly be one of them, but there are also diseases, changes with climate, changes with habitat that might be playing a factor in moose decline as well.
We have got to go, but before we do, let's go ahead and talk about the days and the hours that the International Wolf Center is open here in Ely.
We are open right now during the summer. We're open 9 to 6, 7 days a week, so it is a great time to come to Minnesota and to visit Ely. We are open year-round, although those hours change as the seasons change.
Folks, no matter what your position is on wolves, you've got to respect them for the magnificent animals that they are and the top-tier predators they are. If you want to learn more about them, and I would encourage you to do so and gain a deeper understanding of these animals, a great place to do it is right here at the International Wolf Center. Krista, thanks for taking the time to share this facility with us and these wolves with us on Northwestern Outdoors Radio.
Thank you so much.
You demand quality performance from your binoculars, whether you use them in the field, on the water, or at a stadium. But you don't want to spend a fortune. That's where the BX Mackenzie binoculars from Leupold come in. These armored, waterproof binoculars are both comfortable and dependable. Look for your Mackenzie binoculars at quality sporting goods retailers near you, to include your Cabela's, Sportsman's Warehouse, or Northwest Bi-Mart stores. BX Mackenzie, bringing your world into sharper focus, only from Leupold.
Want to go fishing and make money? You are in luck. This year's Pike Minnow Sport Reward Fishery kicks off May 1st. Just register at a check station and go fishing for 9-inch or longer northern pike minnow within designated waters of the Columbia or Snake River. Then you bring your fish back and collect a voucher good for a cash reward. The more fish you catch, the more they're worth. $5, $6, and $8 per fish. Catch a pike minnow with a special tag and you've landed $500. Find out more at pikeminnow.org. That's pikeminnow.org.
Sportsman's Warehouse is America's premier outfitter and has the quality gear you need for hunting, fishing, camping, and more. Our knowledgeable and friendly staff will help you find the right products so you get the most out of your time in the field or on the water. In addition to stocking superior clothing and outdoor equipment, we offer in-store events and seminars so you can enjoy a successful adventure. With over 70 stores located in the United States, it's easy to find a Sportsman's Warehouse store near you. Find out more at sportsmanswarehouse.com.
Good hunters know before you take that shot, you've got to see the whole picture. Now, the best way to do that is with a spotting scope, binoculars, or a rifle scope, but it's got to be from Leupold. Now, Leupold is a Northwest company with a reputation that stretches across the world for making superior optics. Look for Leupold Optics at your local Cabela's store, Dick's Sporting Goods, or online at leupold.com. Leupold, America's optical authority.
One more time this week for Northwestern Outdoors Radio with John Cruz.
Let's head back to the Northwest and tell you about a few upcoming events. If you like kayaking and wildlife watching, they're offering kayak tours this summer at Beaver Creek State Park, south of Newport in Oregon. The cost is $20 to $40 for a guided tour in a freshwater marsh. Contact the park through their website or by phone for details and to register. Heading to Washington State, the Peter Floor Memorial Salmon Derby, formerly known as the Coastal Conservation Association Wenatchee Salmon Derby, is going to go off July 14th through the 15th on the upper Columbia River near Wenatchee, and the biggest salmon brought to the scales is going to net the winner $2,000. There are lots of other cash and prizes as well. Find out more at WenatcheeSalmonDerby.com. And now, it's time for your Sportsman's Warehouse Trivia Question of the Week. We've spent a lot of time in Minnesota this week, and while I was staying at Timberwolf Lodge at Bear Island Lake, I fell asleep to the mournful call of a bird out on the lake. This wasn't just any bird saying goodnight, though. It was Minnesota's state bird that was helping me end my day. Do you know the name of this bird? Found swimming and fishing in many of Minnesota's lakes? If you do, go to our Facebook page at Northwestern Outdoors Radio, like our page, look for the post, give us your answer there, or if you prefer, go to our website at northwesternoutdoors.com and let us know, what is Minnesota's state bird? One lucky person who guesses right will win the $25 gift card we give away every week from Sportsman's Warehouse. We hope you enjoyed our visit to Ely this week. If you go, be sure to drop by the Chamber of Commerce Visitor Center in town. It's right on the main drag. Just look for the log cabin. The staff is very helpful, and there is all sorts of information available about things to do in the region out of doors. You can also get a lot of information online by going to the Chamber of Commerce website. It's really simple. Just log on to ely.org. That's E-L-Y. That's right, ELY.org. While you're on the web, check out our sister show, America Outdoors Radio. The website there is americaoutdoorsradio.com. And we also air on an internet radio station. You'll find that one at RenoViolaOutdoors.com. That's the home of the WRVO radio network. We'll end our show with a little more music from that Minnesota musician, Frank Prevost. And if you want to find out more about his music and purchase it too, just go to cdbaby.com. The artist again, Frank Prevost, and the album, I Miss Lake Bemidji. Until next time, take care. God bless, and make it a point to spend some time outdoors.